Hello dear ones, it's Alice. I am of the stars, and I thought I'd talk just a tiny bit about electronics. Now, you've heard that the whole world is becoming more sensitive to their electromagnetic fields. The World Health Organization calls it electromagnetic hypersensitivity. But in fact, it's not hypersensitivity. It's not a disease or a syndrome. It's really the way that we are, which we forgot for a while during the long age of darkness. So what we're coming back into now, globally, is electromagnetic sensitivity. Yes? And which has many fine benefits to it. Now, one of the things about becoming more electromagnetically sensitive is that we begin to notice the EMF fields of electronics. These weaken our own electromagnetic fields. And so it's important to minimize electronics in the house, and most particularly in the bedroom, and electricity in the bedroom. I've been into this all before, but what they say is never use an electric blanket. Unplug every electric item in your bedroom before you go to sleep. Don't use the kind of clock that runs on electricity. Instead, use battery-operated clock if you need one for an alarm clock. Don't put a phone in your bedroom and so forth. Otherwise, your sleep will be interrupted and you won't be able to absorb the full quotient of energy that you need to continue in the next day. In your car, if you have a newer car, turn off all the gizmos, every single electronic gizmo, and in particular Pandora and the Bluetooth, and everything else that you can turn off that doesn't interfere with your driving or your mileage, turn it off, okay? You can always stop, get out of the car, and use your cell phone if you have to. As far as your smartphone is concerned, try and keep it in a backpack or someplace far from your body, okay? And that's all I have on minimizing. Try not to live under power lines. Everybody knows that, especially gigantic power lines. They do change and warp your electromagnetic field. So those are some guidelines. I'm sure you'll develop your own as time goes on. And so now, on to the issue of electronics. The field of virtual reality and of nanotechnology it is a field that lies halfway between the third and the fourth dimensions. In that realm is what we call the veil of forgetfulness. And it's also sometimes called the plane of forces. Okay? It's a very strong field that has until now, during the long age of darkness, separated humankind from the feeling world. It is this which is now dissolving. And so what are commonly held to be virtual reality items such as smartphones, televisions, computers, satellite-driven technologies, all of the stuff that mimics the apparatuses of the astral realm, only in a more clumsy and less intuitive manner. That stuff is going to go by the wayside, all right? So, unfortunately, and I say this with depth of compassion, unfortunately, there is a large section of our population that, because of the news and the mass media, believes that virtual reality and nanotech and all that stuff is true, is real. But I'm here to tell you it is not. It is merely a mental approximation to the machinations of the lower astral realm and to the skills that are used by spiritual adepts who have turned to personal gain on the astral realm, who live now on the astral realm because they can't get back into form. These are the people of the Thuggee cults who practiced spiritual powers for worldly gain. All right? So in those arenas lie the tools that are the truer versions of what we call those virtual realities. For instance, the ability to have remote viewing, the ability to project one's voice astrally onto another person, which is what one might call clairventriloquism. What this does is it allows a person to live out their evil propensities, what Arthur E. Powell would call tendencies towards depravity, and to, as it were, pin them on other people, this person and that person on the astral plane, so that those who are listening are confused about who the actual perpetrator of these depraved deeds is. Then, just as there is the clear ability to heal from afar, there's also the possibility for a person with very depraved intentions to try to injure people from afar, such as, until the end of the Age of Darkness, was the ability to cause a heart attack in people, or to fill their bodies with notions of cancer or other terrible diseases. And all of this, fortunately, has ended now with the beginning of the Age of Light. But until that time in 2012, December 2012, it was happening everywhere on Earth. Not just with regard to these beings of whom I speak, the people, the Thuggees on the astral plane who could then get into body, and not just with regard to the demon realm, but also all people on Earth and the shadow side of their personality were doing that thing because the shadow side was manipulated by the dark then. Now we're rediscovering and we're turning to the light and we're capable of doing that healing thing. So this is a really wonderful day for humankind. And then there's a projection of clear images of great allure, and those will mesmerize a person with notions of, for instance, sexual allure while the light is being siphoned off from them. At least that was the case until quite recently. So those are some examples. There are many more examples of the turning of the clear abilities to the dark. So the thing to do is to look online at the 12 or 13 or even more new clear abilities and old clear abilities that are available now, and then just imagine what would a person do with those abilities if they were interested only in personal gain and not in the good of the world. We're becoming co-creators of reality. Each one of us is becoming a co-creator of reality. So there is that. And so there's a list of giant psychic skills. You know, it's not just the aphorisms of Patanjali that lists the supernatural powers, the psychic powers. No, they're also listed in the Kabbalah as the names of God. All right? And so we have to be, and in many other texts, okay? People for a long time have tried for the powers of God without attempting to become more spiritual and more godlike, okay? We need to set aside what the ego wants and the ego needs from the powers of God, and instead aligned our wills, our hearts, and our minds with the will, the heart, and the mind of God. And in that way, we will achieve our purpose on earth. We can't achieve our purpose through ego. We have to rise past ego and greet God with an open heart. Okay, so now what's in it from my pronouncement here? What's in it for those that actually believe in psychic wars to get their way on Earth, to rule Earth. And for those that believe in the ability to control people's minds through advertising campaigns, maybe through using the new ascension skills to do that. For those who think they can actually influence the will of all of the people of a nation in that way, this kind of desire arises from the demon realm and not from our God nature. Okay, so it's important to understand that that first thought that we have is not the aligning with God. No, it's the opposite. We must find that in order to ascend, because down in the demon realm, where it's, dog eat dog and the top guy is the top guy, there's only one top guy. And that top guy is not a human soul. Okay? We want to arise to our potential. We have to espouse the purpose and mission of our soul. So what's in it for us if we're not getting worldly gain? What could it be in it for us with regard to ascension? If our person might not be the most wealthy person on earth, if our organization might not be the most fancy of all of the organizations of that kind on earth, if our nation, instead of becoming the most powerful nation, becomes a friend to all nations. Well, that's a question for you to answer. What could be in it for you? What could it be that your soul wants? What could it be that God really wants for you? This universe is made of love, not hatred. It's hatred with which the demon realm worked, and it's hatred with which we dealt in the third and fourth dimensions, and it's hatred that's dissolving and transforming in the light right now. And what will your new life be like? Will there be wars? No wars. Will there be disagreements? No. Will there be discussion of the future of Earth? Yes. Everyone will have their own notions. And more, peoples of Earth will come into harmony and agreement.